My name is Ron, and this is the Alesis HR-16 drum machine. When I began this video, it occurred to me that I did not show all the things that did not work on the machine. And basically, the control buttons on this side did not want to function. The other side, this row, did not want to function at all. And most critically, the record button didn't work, and the arrow keys were really funky. When I began this project, I tried to record what was wrong with the machine and did a really poor job. And basically, I could see myself here stabbing with my thumb at these buttons on the side, and none of them are working. One flashes momentarily, doesn't want to stay on. The HR-16 is book-ended open. The bottom part is to my left, top is to my right. And all my problems are with the buttons on the front. So everything under this circuit board is where I want to be. I have the HR-16 opened up, and I took off the circuit board that was covering the buttons. And the buttons are nothing more than loose chiclets pushing on rubber pips. And on the back of these pips are little tiny black nubs, and they seem to be resistors. It's a substance that conducts electricity but not super well, and it looks like these little pibs, when you push a button, bridge these little gaps in the circuit board. So here's those little carbon pibs. I don't know what they are exactly, but you can see on the meter over there that they all act with a bit of resistance. They'll bridge the gap. Sometimes they show 60 ohms, fluctuate a little farther apart, 80 ohms. Also changing modes. Just a trace contact sound. Let's see if they activate that. They do not. They activate an amount of resistance, but it doesn't show as a open circuit. Sometimes they do. So they'll conduct, but not great. So that's pretty interesting. Looks like I'll benefit from cleaning up this circuit board. I can see circles where the carbon pads have been impacting the circuit. Another sign that cleaning may help this project out is it looks like a carbon thread is impacting some of the tracing on the circuitry. After rubbing isopropyl alcohol on this circuit board, you can see the dirt that's coming up. So that's got to help. Peeling of the buttons. I've got a plastic dish in that sink right there. I'm going to put a drop of Dawn dishwashing detergent in there, just one tiny little drop. Now that the control pads are washed and rinsed, it's time to lay them out to dry. I've got the HR-16 drum machine hooked back up. Its ribbon cables are in place and I'm turning power onto it. Let's go in a little closer. You can see the pattern light is lit up. These are the buttons on top, the control buttons, are giving me a problem. And I have noticed something. For instance, the song button will work nice. Doesn't require much force to push it down. The play button is difficult. Doesn't want to work for me. Holding down record, press and play. I can't get those guys to trigger off. So I am taking the drum pad controllers, which are nothing more than a simple pop-up, and let me put this in place of where those controls are. The play goes on every time and it stops every time. Let me hold record, and play are on. These guys are working way better than these guys. So there doesn't seem to be a problem with the circuit itself, because these can trigger anything off easily. So I'll have to think about what I'm going to do about that. My record button didn't work before. Now it does. Stop button works real good again too. And all these buttons on the side that didn't want to work for me are now working again. Though it's hard to get them to latch when it's just laying there loose. These buttons work again, but I'm not going to bother showing you the LCD. The buttons work much better now. I did a little research, and the instructions of the Alesis itself gave me an indication of what's going on. The back start-stop foot switch is a shorting switch. Normally open. It closes by putting the tip, connecting the tip to the sleeve, shorting the circuit, and it will start or stop the machine. So gives you the clue that the whole machine is running on that type of shorting switch. So I've got a graphite pencil here, and I can change modes by bridging these gaps with a pencil. So I've come to the conclusion that these things are just graphite impregnated rubber, and the graphite coating is wearing off. So I'm taking a pencil, a big flat pencil, and I am just rubbing all over these contacts, and now they work absolutely great. I don't know how long that would last. I'm sure they make graphite paints that might work for this, but these are just the on-off switches that were giving me such a hard time. All the drum pad stuff works great, but these little switches did not. But now they're working great. Now I can start and stop and continue like usual. All my buttons work again. So the graphite pencil on there worked wonderful to let these switches work again. I want to try a solution to get rid of the yellowing that has occurred on the drum pads. I'm ready to try bleaching my drum pads, which are severely yellowed. I'm going to try to turn them to a more natural shade that they originated from. And I have a homemade light panel. These are not ultraviolet lights, but they are very blue. So I have blue light, and I have some hydrogen peroxide. This is off the shelf 3%, and I'm hoping that blue light will activate the hydrogen peroxide. These keys want to float in a certain way, so I put the light at the bottom. So I'm hoping this will waiting my keys. Okay. The bleaching of the buttons has been going on for 7 days. Let me open this up and see how we're doing. take this into some light where we can see what we're doing. The yellowing is almost gone from the top of the button now. Well, I just wanted to measure the voltage on this battery, this dead battery, 0.026. Nominally it's 3.6 volts, so it is very dead. So let's get on with replacing that battery next. Here is the replacement battery I'll be using. Size 1/2 AA, 3.6 volt lithium battery. Okay, let's remove this dead battery. There we go. Last thing to be fixed are the anchor points for the screws. Many of them are broken. Some are completely gone. The plastic just got old and cracked and away they went. To fix those broken post holes, I'm going to be using a product called Epoxy Sculpt. It comes in a part A and a part B. It is an epoxy that approximates clay. There they are. Just take equal amounts of both of these and mix it together. Here's my part A and part B, approximately the same size. And just work them together until they form one even color. The gloves are not necessary, but just makes cleaning up my hands a lot easier later. This is completely non-toxic. Okay, I've waited 15 minutes. The epoxy gets less sticky over time. It's still quite sticky after 15 minutes, but if you handle it immediately, it's almost impossible to deal with. You have a 3-hour work time with this stuff, so I'm just going to pinch some off. You can use your bare hands. It's not a problem. There's no solvents in this whatsoever. So I'm going to make small balls. That's the idea. And find a spot where the post is gone, and I'm just going to push some material on here so I can drill a new hole. And I'm going to continue that around the project and then go back, and I'm going to put the buttons on and put the circuit board on top to make sure I smush it down so it's the right height. So I'll get back to you here. Okay, I've made sure that the holes are lined up here on the carbon pads. Just find the approximate place and see if I have any gaps down here. Push down. Gotta get my face right in there, excuse me. Make sure nothing's sticking up too far. Okay. Everything looks cool. I'll let this stuff dry now. It's the next day. The epoxy is hardened. On the top panel, the epoxy has worked beautifully. It's adhered well to the top of the HR-16, and the holes took threading great, and I've already put screws in there, taken them out. That part works great. I've had a bit of a failure down here. the first hole here worked great. The second hole, there's a partial post there, and I put the epoxy around it, and it did not adhere. So I'll have to glue that guy back down and try that again. And if you notice with the pad contacts in place, the epoxy is set a little low over here, so I'm going to build these two up a little bit more. It's another day. The epoxy has set where I built up these little areas, and I am going to remove these buttons. I have everything lined up, and I poked little holes where I need to drill. The screw that came out of these holes was a 3mm screw. I'm using one that's slightly longer with a point, so I'm using a 2.5mm drill bit. Okay, I've done some drilling and a little bit of sanding, and I sanded down to where the plastic posts were again. Don't worry about those things that look like crumbles. They're firmly glued to the plastic frame. So, I think I'm ready to put this thing back together now.
Okay, looks good.
I'm going to start from the middle. These posts are perfect. I did not have to redo these at all. So, they're my starting point.
Nice.
Checking carefully to make sure I don't over tighten. They need to be firm, not tight. So I don't want to strip that epoxy. It's pretty strong, but it's not temp fade.
Okay, everything's square.
Make sure all my buttons are properly sticking through. I'm sorry you can't see this, but I'm just double checking to make sure I didn't mess anything up. All the buttons are sticking through. I have a little spacer here of just silicone to prop up this edge. Make sure I can push down without pushing the chiclets up. So I look good. Let's do the rest of these. Not that I have a big use for a drum machine anymore. I can control all this from my computer now with samples and everything, but still, this was an important machine to me back in the day, and I feel, makes me feel good to be able to prepare it and get it back into working order again. Oh, that is firm, baby. Okay, head array it is. Right on the right side. Okay, buddy. Looking good. Sweet. Okay, buddy. Now back together. Sweet. Everything can push, comes back. They're not too sunken in. Sweet. Now we just have to plug it all in. See if it actually works again. Okay, the first step is turning the power back on. See how we do. Good. Let's press play. Excellent. That means the battery is doing its job and we now have memory. Now let's go in for a little closer look. I think you'll be able to see that. Let's use the arrow keys to pick a different pattern. there anything on number 2? Yes, because I've been playing with it. How about number 3? Yes. Tell you what. Let's hit the erase button. There we go. Pattern erased on number 3. Let's hit the length. Go back down to 4 beats. Hit record to make that work. Hit record to put something on it. Record works, stop works. Very good. Let's try to erase one single drum. Kick erased. Good. All my editing functions are back again. And let's look at the voice. Cool. Hand claps. Good. Can change all this again. Excellent. So the voice is great again. The tune for something. There we are. Let's try something else. Tune's working like it should again. The mix shows me my pan and my volume for each drum. Nice. Tempo works. I've already changed that. And the MIDI utility. All my utilities are in there and working again. Sweet. Song, I haven't strung any patterns together, but all my buttons work again. I can once again work with this machine. So I'm a happy guy. Sweet. This is Ron. See you later.